So this afternoon is going to be presenting a paper on revolutionizing cyber defense, the NIST CSF 2.0 advantage, and just a little brief into his background. Saif Azwar is a cybersecurity consultant with over 18 years of experience in the field. His multiple qualifications include CISSP, CCSP, CISM, CISA, CRISC, and CEH. Demonstrates his dedication to staying current with cybersecurity challenges and regulatory demands. Throughout his career, Saif has built solid partnerships and provided tailored security advisory services to meet the unique needs of various organizations. He has helped over 100 organizations protect their critical assets and sensitive information, ensuring business continuity, safeguarding reputations, and maintaining regulatory compliance. A round of applause for him. So,
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. As they mentioned, my name is Saif Azwar. I'm a cybersecurity advisor. I've been in the industry for more than 18 years. I've been in roles like technical, management, leadership, and basically I help organizations enhance their security posture, understand the risk they have, and help them protect their critical assets. So in today's presentation, we will try to answer three questions. What are the objectives? What we are trying to achieve as cybersecurity professionals, whether we are analysts, engineers, architects, or even CISOs, and what are the challenges that we are facing on day-to-day basis as professionals in the field, handling different business requirements, tackling different cyber threats, facing or trying to navigate different regulations and mandates that's coming to the industry every month or every year. And finally, how are we going to use a framework to basically streamline our tasks or streamline our day-to-day jobs rather than being like tackling those problems without a strategy or without a cohesive vision within the environment. So I would start with the objectives. What we are trying to achieve as security professionals. What are the security goals that we have? One is being asset protection for sure. So that could be the data, the sensitive information, systems, networks, applications, you name it. Even we consider people as critical asset for the organization. We need to protect people, especially when it comes to critical infrastructure, industries, or sectors. The second one is maintaining operational resilience, business continuity. That's very important. And we probably heard multiple topics today or yesterday talking about business resilience, how you should recover from an incident, maintain your revenue, customer satisfaction, business operation in general. And lastly, the reputation and the brand. How you make sure that your customers still can trust you as an organization. If you have a data breach, how you should be transparent with those data breaches, how you should report those incidents to the authorities, to the people, to the stakeholders in general. Now, to do that, we need some cyber defense mechanisms. We need some security controls. Security controls or those mechanisms could be a combination of technologies, processes, best practices that's going to help you defend or mitigate those cyber threats as well as the risks. Those cyber defense mechanism or controls, it could be administrative, like policies. It could be technical controls, like firewalls, antiviruses, any other type of like technology or tool you use. And finally, it could be operational or physical control, like door access control, especially if you have an on-prem environment or offices or facilities. And those controls going to help you mitigate the risk or the threats. Those threats could be adversarial. They could be accidental, like someone within your internal team deleting files, causing an outage. This could be technology-based risks, like an outage within your technology stack or an outage for your cloud services. Or it could be environmental, like natural disaster, floods, fires within your data centers. Usually we focus only on the adversarial side of things, but we need to tackle all those type of threats. And that's how we basically help you understand what type of security controls you need to deploying your environment. Of course, those adversarial or actionable could be insider, could be an outsider, it could be individuals, groups, nation states, sponsor that will target your organization. Every organization has some level of cyber defense mechanisms or security controls. So if I want to take an example of an organization, what you see here on the screen is an example of an enterprise. They might have, if you see to the bottom of the screen, they might have facilities or offices, which is a controlled environment. They might have remote access workforce. That could be like people working from home, from the airports, they are traveling, could be anywhere. And the organization also have some systems, some data applications that's deployed in the cloud. Maybe it's a SaaS application. This could be infrastructure. It could be an on-prem or a private data center. Also, as an organization, you will deal with supply chain. You will deal with third parties. That should be contractors, vendors, business partners who have access to your data. They have access to your systems. And of course, you have clients. You want a business, you're an organization, you're going to have clients, whether that's B2B or B2C, depends on your organization. So every organization start with deploying different type of security controls. Those are basic controls. They start with firewalls, with antivirus software. They start with some backup solution. And as the organization started growing and expanding, maybe into new markets, or they're starting to build a new product, they start deploying more security controls, more defense mechanisms. Those could be security operations like monitoring, log analytics. It could be more advanced identity and access management solutions. And when you start doing that, basically your security controls start growing organically without a cohesive vision or strategy. Also, some organizations start reacting to some incident they have in the environment, or reacting to new regulations or mandates within your industry, and that will make the team even deploy more tools or more strategies in the environment, or even more policies. Now, this is where cybersecurity become overwhelming, because you start having a patchwork of solutions, a patchwork of tools. Those tools, they overlap, they are redundant. Those deployments might be inconsistent, like you're trying to focus on a certain business unit or business process rather than focusing on the whole enterprise as a one strategy. That will make your team have some fatigue. They will be overwhelmed. They will be stressed because now they are trying to handle different type of requirements. And usually we are all kind of like facing that. When there's a new business requirement, usually there is no notice, no advance notice. They're not going to tell you, well, next year we're going to have a new product. Usually they'll going to say, next month we are trying to launch this product. Go secure this platform or secure this deployment and you handle it. That will make you basically do a quick deployment, incomplete deployments, just to be compliant with the requirements, compliant with the new region you are going there. So this is not security. This is mainly compliance. So in order to tackle this, in order to build a unique strategy or a clear strategy for the environment, you need a framework. That framework going to help you manage your risks. It's going to help you protect your assets, maintain operation, maintain your reputation and brand for the organization. And a framework is basically a set of well-defined practices, processes, guidelines that will help you implement it in a repeatable way and in a proper way to meet the business objective or the security objectives. It will give you put everything in perspective in terms of like roadmap. What is the current profile of the current security state for organization and where you want to go? So you start working with the business, you start working with the technical team, all the stakeholders basically to meet or achieve that roadmap or that desired state in the future. Whether that's a goal in 1 year, in 2 years, or 3 years, depends on the size of the environment, depends on your strategy, basically. The framework also going to give you a comprehensive approach. It's going to cover all areas of cybersecurity. So you know how some of us in certain fields, or we are subject matter experts, we focus on only detection mechanisms or adversary or offensive security or identity and access management. In my opinion, all the security teams or security team members, they need to focus on the whole strategy. They need to understand when someone comes to them and say, hey, I need a backup solution, they need to understand why you need a backup solution. Why a backup solution is important, because you need business resilient. If they say we need to detect threats, they need to know that incidents still going to happen. It's not like you deploy the security control, you are all set and you should be fine. No, incidents going to happen. So you need to have a full strategy in terms of the protection, the detections, the recovery, all those aspects, basically. And that's going to also help you build a consistent strategy in your environment. So usually the frameworks can be applied to the whole organization. Like how do you have, like what type of strategy you have for your whole organization? It can be applied to a business unit or it can be applied to a system. Like it could be a mission critical system within your environment. So this framework is basically going to help you to be adaptable, scalable, and also have the same strategies across the board. Now, which framework they use? There are plenty of frameworks applied and standards strategies in the industry. There are some that risk management framework. Some of them are technical. Some of them are targeting specific industry or sector. Some of them are they work for a certain region. Like it could be maybe the Europe, like GDPR as a privacy. I know privacy and cybersecurity are different disciplines, but they overlap a lot. And usually the same strategies or controls you use is going to help you achieve your privacy as well as cybersecurity objectives. So where should you start? Basically, there are many ways. There is no wrong answer. But one of the best frameworks in the industry today is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, NIST CSF. And it's great because it can help, like it's widely recognized. This is number one. Second is being scalable and adaptable. So any type of business, doesn't matter your like industry or sector, whether you're government, your public sector, your private sector, non-profit organization, doesn't matter the size of the organization, it's going to apply to you. You can adopt to those kind of like strategies and outcomes. At the same time, it can integrate with other standards, other guidelines in the industry. So you can have a framework that you build for your organizations, customized, tailored to your environment. That's follow NIST. It can also adopt some strategies or guidelines from the ISO family. It can adopt strategies from the CIS controls as technical controls, and you can mix and match. But the base framework that you're going to use is NIST CSF, and then you build on top of that. The other factor to the NIST CSF is basically to give you coverage. So on NIST CSF, recognize 6 security functions that you have security controls or outcomes within those functions. They have the govern, which is the governance, compliance, risk management, the identify or identification of assets, risks, protection, detection, response, and recovery. Those are all the main critical areas that you need to focus on when you build a strategy or a framework for your environment. And also they have the roadmap. As I mentioned, the NIST CSF can give you the capability to build current profiles or the current state in your like cybersecurity and the desired state, the target profile. And basically you will be able to start prioritizing your activities, your budgets, your resources to work toward those desired profiles. And finally, the maturity. You will be able to measure how mature your practices are. Are you doing things in ad hoc manner or on demand? Do you do your asset management process within the year on a certain date? Do you do your disaster recovery exercises or crisis continuity exercises on a proper schedule? Do you involve everyone? That's going to measure the maturity of your practice and will help you communicate this back to the business saying, hey, we are doing great in those areas with the asset management, but we usually don't do good when it comes to business continuity exercises, incident response exercise. So we need to do better. So you start building this year after year until you reach the maturity that suits your needs as well as it's within the acceptable risk levels for the organization. Until today, I haven't seen an organization that's reached level 4 of maturity. Usually they will be between risk informed to the basically repeatable process. So we're all on the same page here, like we're on the same journey. We all trying to work towards a better maturity levels, and it's a long journey. It's not going to be overnight or over a year. It's going to be multiple years. It could be changing because of the objective this is required for your organization. Now, talking about the coverage, as you mentioned, the NIST CSF has 6 different functions that define multiple outcomes, multiple security domains of tools that you can implement within your organization. The first one being the government or the governance. That's basically understanding your business. What are the objectives? What are the goals? What are the policies you have in place? What are the risk management strategies? Do you accept risk? Do you mitigate risk? Do you transfer it to a third party or do you avoid it? That really depends on the risk appetite or risk tolerance for the organization. It can also handle cybersecurity or supply chain risk management. And those 2 things are major enhancements of NIST CSF version 2. They added a dedicated function for the governor, which is this one, and they added dedicated outcomes or categories for supply chain risk management. They also have the identify function, which is basically you need to know what do you have in the environment, what type of assets, what type of data, what type of systems and applications. If you don't know what you have, you will not be able to protect or detect incidents within those functions. Once you identify those assets and risks, threats, vulnerabilities, now you start protecting them using different kind of controls. That could be identity access management, passwords, multi-factor authentications, privileged identity management. It could be security awareness, applying secure configuration within the environment. Once you start protecting your environment, you still need to detect if there are some weird activities or malicious activities within the environment. You need to detect bad behaviors or suspicious kind of like alerts in the environment. Of course, even if you are protecting your environment, detecting anomalies, incidents still going to happen. So you're still going to have an incident with your environment. Now, the thing is, or the matter is going to be, what's the impact of that incident? So you still prepare incident response for different playbooks, different scenarios within your environment. What will happen if you have a ransomware in the environment? What will happen if someone, a privileged identity or privileged user password got compromised? What are the steps you're going to follow? To who should you notify? Are you going to immediately go from the organization, like incident responder, or authorities? There is a data breach. And of course, after every incident, after you mitigate the incident, you need to recover. You need to be able to restore your services, whether that's restoring access to an account or restoring the whole environment if you have a major outage due to a ransomware or something else. Because you remember, we mentioned that it's not always adversarial. It's not always malicious activities. It could be anything else. So you need to be prepared for those scenarios. So if we want to kind of like apply those 6 security functions to the organization, example that we have, you need first to start with identifying the assets. Those assets could be in the cloud, like it could be like cloud services, applications, could be platforms, could be banks, in the fact, like if you're dealing with banks or what's not. You need to identify all the assets within handed or delivered to your workforce, laptops, devices, printers. You need to understand your environment. So you'll be able to assess the risk, assess the vulnerabilities that you have in the environment. Who are the threat actors that could target your industry? And can they exploit those vulnerabilities or missing processes or gaps in the environment? And how do you improve over time on this risk assessment process? Are you doing something different? Are you being very broad in terms of risk management? You're only focusing on the organization, but you're not focusing on your mission critical systems or application members. Maybe you need to go deeper and do the same risk assessment for the system that generates revenue for your environment or for your organization. Maybe you need to do it for your system that store or handle your medical records if you're in the healthcare industry. Those are the things that you need to focus on. Once you identify those assets, as we mentioned, you start protecting them with technologies, processes, and best practices. Lastly, as we mentioned, identity management, password, multi-factor authentication, you name it. Those, by the way, could apply to your environment or could apply also to the third party who has access to your environment. So you need to tackle both. You need to manage the risk from both perspectives. Doesn't matter who's accessing your data. You need to protect that entity. You need to ensure they are following best practices when it comes to authentication or organization. How do you apply case prevention mechanism within the environment? Security awareness. That's very important. You need to build a risk-aware culture within your environment. You need to make sure everyone understands what they would do when there is an incident, how they should react. Practice, basic. So they know what's happening, they know how to react. And they review it, the confidentiality, integrity, availability of your data. Are you encrypting the data? Do you have like data loss prevention tool? Do you do labeling and classification of data so you know what have access to your data? For example, a new technology just released like generative AI. If you enable that within your environment, what type of access this technology going to have? How do you govern that access? Do you do labeling and classification and say, well, Microsoft Copilot, you're only going to access those specific reports or those specific labels? You cannot access everything. Those are the things you need to work on. So it doesn't matter if it's a threat or it doesn't matter if it's a technology. You still need to tackle this. You need to handle the dispute. Platform security, technology infrastructure resilience, building redundancy within the environment. That's also very important. Once you do the protection, the goal detection mechanism, which is basically monitoring the events, discovering anomalies, monitoring the dark web for indicator of compromise or new credentials within your environment and how you should react to that. Again, incidents still gonna happen. Either that's because someone didn't pay attention to a phishing email they received and they clicked on that URL, or it could be a technology that's failed. You need to be able to respond to that incident. You need to be able to be prepared on who you should talk to, who you're gonna report the incident to. In many industries, there are some incident response reporting requirements. For example, British Columbia, for their utility companies, they have now new mandates that you need to report the incident within 72 hours. And they ask you to build an incident response strategy that's based on NIST framework. So you need to comply with those requirements. In other areas, like maybe financial industry, the OSFI, it's also asked you to be compliant with certain requirements, and they focus on incident response. Once it comes to the PII, PHI, PCI data, you need to be really serious when it comes to reporting those data breaches, because that affects the privacy. It could affect the livelihood of the individuals affected within that breach. So who's doing the analysis when it comes to incident response? We mentioned who you're communicating with. Are you reporting to the authorities? Are you only reporting internally if there is no data breach? And finally, how are you going to mitigate those risks? If it's a password compromise or a credential compromise for someone within your environment, what are you going to do? What's the thing? I'm going to reset the password, terminate all the connections, and invoke the day. If it's a ransomware, what you gonna do? Do you disconnect the network, try to isolate the incident, and then you start analyzing how it's happened, where it's happened, how you should prevent that from happening in the future. And finally, which is the most important one, is how you recover to a good state of your operation. If you don't have backups, if you don't have a mechanism to recover to your operation, you are done. Like, what you gonna do after that? Business continuity and business resilience is very important. This is what's gonna help you to stand back up and basically resume your operation. That's all come to how prepare that. You can recover in 1 day or you can recover in 1 month. It really depends on the plans you have in the environment. Do you have a clean backup copy for your data? Do you trust that? Do you have a strategy like a clearable or something else that you can recover to analyze and then basically return to operation? That's very important to understand. And finally, how are you going to govern the whole thing? From the identify all the way to the recover process. What are the policies you have in place? What are your risk management strategies? Do you need to be compliant or is just like following best practices to secure your environment? Those are all important questions. I need to tackle them sooner than later. So if you are a client or you are part of organization, you are trying to protect your environment, you need to think of all of that. You need to sit down, build a strategy, talk to your stakeholders, talk to the IT teams, security teams, and say, hey, we need to focus on all those areas. It's no longer only deploying firewalls or deploying like a SIG tool or EDR solution. We need to make sure that we have the necessary tools um, uh, at our disposal to be able to protect the environment. You need to understand what type of tools you have to do. Some of those tools, they overlap. So if you have a detection and response tool, that will be managing your, like a managed detection and response, for example, they might offer endpoint detection and response. They might offer network detection and response. How are you going to build your tool set to make sure that it's working for you, it's working for the environment, and basically you are not overwhelming your team members. You as a vendor as well, what you're going to do to help the clients make a better decision? How are you going to map your functions or your security features to those security functions? When you come and reach out to a client, how you make sure that, hey, I can help you cover those aspects within the detection, the response, as well as the protection. Take a firewall as an example. It could have IDS, it could have IPS, it could have anti-malware. They have many features you can use. Are they covering like your public cloud services or covering only the on-prem services? So that's how you can basically plan your strategy. Now, the nice thing about NIST CSF is basically it has practical implementation guides or profiles. Let's say you are the healthcare industry. Your main objective, as an example, is to protect from a security perspective, of course, to protect the patient data. So NIST CSF, if you want to adopt that, it's going to help you identify what are the critical assets, where are the medical records are mostly stored through for process. How do you protect that? Do you use encryption? Do you use something else? How do you respond if there is a data breach for your PHI, like the protected health information? Do you respond to internally? Do you need to notify authorities? Do you need to notify the patients that their data were leaked? That's all things that you need to take care of and you need to basically plan for. The beauty about NIST CSF is basically there are multiple community profiles already built and ready to be used for different sectors like smart grids or energy sectors, election systems. And that's continuing to grow. Like there are more community profiles being released day after day. They even have community profiles that you can use to tackle a certain cyber threats or risk, ransomware, denial of service. All those can be accessed through their websites. You can basically download the templates and customize it to your environment. They will give you like a wage where your current status and what could be the desired state for your environment for this sector, as an example. Now, where do we start if we want to adopt NIST CSF? I would say if you are kind of like lean or you don't have a strategy in place, you can start with understanding your business. What are the objectives? What are the policies? Who are your stakeholders? And then you start doing initial assessment. Tell me what type of assets you have. Tell me what type of risk and other like threats or vulnerabilities. After that, you start with building current and target profiles. Where I am at today, where should I go in the next year or 2 years or 3 years? What are the priorities for our environments? How should I adopt like new strategies for enhancing the detection, protection, response capabilities? Now, of course, saying 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, that could be unrealistic for some organizations. Some organizations are like way they are on this different business processes. It will take longer. So maybe you focus on a certain business process or certain business unit and you tackle that. This is a mission critical business process. Let's do that first. Let's do risk assessment. Let's figure out the priorities. So those timelines could be really subjective to the size of environment, to the sector, yeah, the term of it. And finally, how do you do continuous improvement? That's continuous tests, risk assessment, risk analysis, basically being able to build the security posture within your environment, make everyone aware of the risk associated with technology, whether they are adversarial, accidental technology, or environmental risks. And that's the proposed way for doing it. I hope that you learned something today. I appreciate your time for you coming here, and thank you so much. Any questions? Yeah. Yeah. Great things. Let me see. Sort of just think of the now things to earbuds with property. Yeah. Right. You got from lawyer pies. You can replicate the entire command and coming to the latest space. Yeah, that's how I use it. So can you so what I've been looking at is that when organizations get a ransomware attack, they usually put one which lowering the environment. So I found okay, what's the metric of how long is the length in the tunnel? So it's not a good proxy. It can't be the negative problems for cars where you can like this up. Just that was pointing out is that's a very good question and it's very challenging to ask. Usually, you know, like everyone else has a software as it depends, right? So, but I'm not going to that try to give you like a profile stuff. So usually, there are new technologies or new processes in there for this and that called a team. There's something called permissible backup or secure backup. Basically, the best idea is to always have a backup strategy for this. Always scan those backups for any products or malicious cores or any of that. And you have at least 30 to 60 days to back this up to kind of like scan first. Now, if you go through an incident, usually the first 12 hours or 24 hours is your time to get out those files what was the impact. And who should you involve? And you get engaged and it's a responsibility, whether that's in-house or to do some from outside. If you try to add less to stealing, what's happened? Suddenly, how far back should you go? Our data, they will never get. They can't do that because they don't know what's happened. They will need to collect evidence, collect logs, collect information, analyze it, and that's usually going to take days to do that. On the other hand, you have a business that's emerging to every one or say, hey, then we stop and we cover. We are losing revenue. We have a bill tonight that we need to run, that people need to take tomorrow. So I would say it's very subjective to answer that. I would say usually people go back to these beyond for activities and surfacing values from what I've seen. But certain scenarios I went back to resilience and development. Because not sure that kind of sending activities is enough. So it's very subjective. One of the best ways to do it is basically build what they call a clean room where you have the ability of environments to isolate environments, do some analysis, do some validations, and if you're comfortable with it, recover. But always be ready that there's a question that come back to you and say, well, that's what you need to provide. So take an action rather than waiting more until it's lost. And that's why you can also. Yeah. Another question? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.